Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here because today we're talking about something that's really important. Look, I read this online that when you lose an employee, it's the equivalent of like 6 to 9 months of the cost of your organization of what their annual salary is. And this is why it's so important to make sure that you're getting and recruiting the right people right from the beginning. But look, I'll be honest with you, we screw this up, whether you know it or not. We have so many biases built into us as humans, and a lot of these biases adversely affect our hiring decisions. Even though we think we're making very objective, smart hiring decisions, we really suck at hiring the right people. So we're going to fix that right now today. With us is Jeremy Jenson. Now, Jeremy is a visionary founder and CEO of Encore Search Partners, Houston's largest privately held executive search firm. Now, a recognized expert in the entrepreneurial operating system, or EOS, Jeremy built Encore on a foundation of 7 core principles: excellence, resilience, gratitude, professionalism, coachable, and meticulous and competitive as well. Now, these principles have driven the company's success and earned it a reputation in delivering unmatched talent acquisition solutions. Now, founded in 2013, Encore Search Partners employs a data-driven, industry-focused approach to professional recruiting. So by actually combining deep industry expertise, cutting-edge data analysts, and also an aggressive outbound marketing strategy, the firm actually specializes in connecting clients with niche professional and technical talent. Encore serves industries such as financial services, such as wealth management, law, manufacturing, energy, chemicals, and technical sales, helping organizations nationwide secure top-tier professionals. Now, Jeremy's commitment to leadership extends beyond Encore. He's actually an active member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, a global network of over 17,000 entrepreneurs, and enjoys mentoring others in the art of scaling businesses. A proud father of 3, Jeremy values spending quality time with his sons and friends in his free time. Under his guidance, Encore Search Partners continues to thrive as a minority-owned enterprise headquartered in Houston, serving clients around the nation. Jeremy, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us today.
Man, you're like the greatest hype man in the world. Look at you. Love the energy and enthusiasm, Ty. Thank you for the intro.
Well, look, the reality is we make a lot of mistakes as entrepreneurs. We spend too much time on getting customers and not retaining customers. We make the wrong decisions with employees and think it's not a big deal and it costs us. And we don't pay attention to how much money that actually cost us. So as I was pointing out in the beginning, like how bad have you found that we are truly without what you have data-wise in making decisions of who to hire?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different employers that do it so incredibly different, right? And I think that it's important to recognize that there's different best practices in different phases of how big you are, right? Whenever you are making hiring decisions from 1 million to 10 million are probably a lot different than whenever you're going from 50 million to 100 million, right? And it's important to recognize that sometimes you need people that can wear many hats. Sometimes you need one person to wear one hat and to do it very, very, very well, right? And so I think that it's important to recognize that there's no one size fits all, and that you have to kind of take a look at every single opportunity, unique in and of itself. But, with that being said, what we do as headhunters is we consult with the client. We figure out what the business problem is, and then we develop a go-to market strategy in order to find a person to solve that challenge, right? And sometimes it's, a technology integration person, right? Sometimes it's an individual that can provide world-class data analytics in order to make smarter, faster business decisions. Sometimes it's simply poaching the top performing salespeople from our clients' competitors. That way they can grow their revenues, right? And so I think it's important to align with the headhunter that has a pure outbound headhunting approach, as opposed to just someone that's going to post a job on job boards and present you with the best of the other.
What is the difference? I have an HR team, right? You work some really big companies. I mean, like even Raymond James down here in our house in Tampa, Florida. So, what's the difference? Like if I have an HR team, part of their purpose to me is to go out and find the right people. So
Mhm.
why am I using a headhunter? And this is what I think a lot of people that watch are always ask about headhunters. Why do I use a headhunter? What do they do so much differently and better than relying on myself or an HR team to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So HR teams are incredible. HR teams do a great job of identifying and filling 98% of the open roles that they have in their company, right? If you need a financial analyst, you need an accounting controller, you need an IT director. Odds are your HR team can put together a great job description, put it on Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, Career Builder, Jazz HR, whatever job board resource they can. And there's a high probability they're going to find great candidates. But for 2% of the time, whenever you're looking for something super specialized, right? Maybe it's someone that's got a very strong technical skill set, right? Maybe it's someone that has the ability to travel 90% of the time. Maybe it's someone with a certain certification or accreditation, or maybe it's someone with a really big book of business. Odds are the supply is not as great as the demand for those individuals. And so in those specific instances, you turn to a headhunter that's skilled at not only identifying who are the people that fit this demographic in the market, but what I can say what a great headhunter does is we're great storytellers, right? So when we have that 30 seconds where somebody picks up the phone when we cold call them for a CFO role with Credit Suite, right? There's a very finite amount of time where we can share a story to get that person who was absolutely not interested in gainfully employed for them to tell us, hey, tell me more, right? That's what separates a poor recruiter from a great headhunter. But don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, your internal HR team does a great job of identifying those active candidates, the people that are looking. But whenever you need a passive person that's not looking, that's when you turn to firms like us.
Makes a lot of sense. So if I'm hiring a salesperson, probably can rely on my HR team to do that. But if I'm trying to bring in a chief finance officer or a chief operating officer, not even a C level, doesn't always have to be C level. But if I'm making that major of a decision, I might want to consider headhunting versus HR because I'm looking for a really high level position and I have a lot more invested for that going well. And those are the type of scenarios I really want to rely on experts like headhunters versus HR.
Absolutely. I'll give you an analogy, right? So I've been single for the last 6 years, and hopefully this year, I feel like I've met my future wife, and I may put a ring on it this year. But you kind of got to look at HR of like maybe like a dating app, right? You can swipe right, you can find leads all day of people to go out with. Those are people to interview. But if you're looking to put a ring on it and make one of the most important decisions, maybe add to your executive team or bring in a really high powered sales leader or rainmaker producer that can bring a big book of business, you probably don't want to rely on the swipe right mentality, right? And so that's whenever you have to kind of build that perfect candidate profile and then aggressively outbound headhunt and approach those people that are gainfully employed.
So, how are you using data to help make better decisions and find the right people?
Yeah, my background is actually not in business. It's actually in mathematics and data science. That's what I went to university for. But with that being said, it's just paying for access to all of the data, right? If I'm consulting with, a registered investment advisor in Omaha, Nebraska, that's got 2 billion in assets under management, they say, "Hey, Jeremy, we need a chief compliance officer, right, to come in and help scale up our compliance because we're looking at doing 4 acquisitions next year," right? They may tell me, "Yeah, I want a female, right, that's got between 10 and 25 years in the business, right? And, culturally, we want her to have gone to a public university in the Midwest, right, because that's going to get along culturally with our executive team." I think it's important to have a business partner that can identify who are the 14 people that fit that precise demographic. And then that way we can be very acute in our messaging and our targeted marketing in order to solicit those 14 people, as opposed to just take a shotgun approach, right? And so when you talk about data, sure, there's a data science and a data analysis component, but more importantly, it's having just access to who are the people that fit the client's specific needs. That's one thing that we invest in and one of the things that we do really, really well.
So, what factors should we be taking into consideration with hiring that you see most employers just don't do or don't take into account?
Yeah, quite often I think employers they rely a little bit too much on experience, right, and not enough on maybe the soft skills that are related to what really define an A player. One of the acronyms that I think a lot of people use in my industry is looking for individuals that have the gas factor. And gas is the give a shit factor, right? Who are the people that really care about their job, right? The ones that aren't clocking out at 5, right? Just because, they want to get home because they want to get to Whole Foods, and have a date night, right? But the people that leave the office whenever the job is done, right? The people that are consistent high performers in every single thing that they've done in life, right? Whether it was, athletics as a child, maybe it was, volunteering and participating in extracurricular activities in college, right? But the people that are just high achievers, that's not something that you're going to see on a resume, right? That's why it's important to utilize sophisticated Boolean strings and utilize strategies and identify what those high achievers are, right? Maybe it's upward mobility in previous employers, right? Maybe it's certain awards and credentials that they've secured in their career. But having a resource that can go out and identify who are those achievers and then do a great job of pulling those individuals into the role. It might be somebody who's only got 5 years of experience that's a rock star. Whenever our clients were putting more weight on the person that has 20 years of experience, who's a C player, right? I think that's a very antiquated way of thinking.
Retention is important, as we kind of started in the very beginning saying. So when I'm making a hire decision at all, which I don't make a lot anymore, but when I do, how long they've been at their previous jobs to me is always a major factor. I'm interested from your perspective. Should it be like how big of an impact is it? Like how does their past and how long they've been at past jobs really tie into how long they be at the job that you're putting them into?
I think that it's important to identify the role and what you need out of the role, right? If I'm looking for a salesperson, right, I probably want somebody that's got some stickiness with one employer because it means they've survived a lot of one-on-ones with sales leadership, right? Whenever you look at a salesperson that's job hopping every single year, that's a major red flag. They're consistently not hitting quota, right? They may have consistent disagreements with sales leadership, right? And so I think that whenever you're looking for a high level salesperson, it's important to put a lot of weight on tenure, right? If I'm looking for a technology integrator, right? Maybe an ERP implementation specialist, I might not necessarily put a lot of weight on their job tenure, right? How many ERPs have you implemented in the last 10 years of your career, right? I probably want the guy that's worked for 10 different employers that's implemented 10 different ERPs because he can implement mine in his sleep, if that makes sense, right? And so I think it's important to recognize what are the business challenges that I'm trying to solve, and then go out and find somebody that has the proven skills and experience in order to deliver that, right? And so tenure is going to be super important if I'm looking for an executive leader, right? Or if I'm looking for a high level revenue producer. If I'm looking for someone to clean up my books, right, that's a strong finance manager, I might be looking for someone with an entirely different type of resume than just 8 years, working in Microsoft Great Plains at one company, right? And so I think it's important to understand what are the business challenges that they need to solve.
So I love that you start with the end in mind because I think so many entrepreneurs make that mistake in almost everything we do. So if I come to you and I'm looking to hire you and I say, you're going to ask me, hey, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the end result? And I tell you that, how much do you dig in asking me what other factors are important and how much do you take those into consideration? Because like I just said, I may say, look, I need somebody who's been at their last job because that's important to me. But then you might look at it and go, that's not really important to getting this end result. So how much are you asking? How much are you caring? And how much are you taking into account from my perspective of the things I think that are important?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to answer your question, I would say 100% of the discovery process is me asking questions, right? And I may not say, what are your goals? I may say, why is the position being created, right? And then you may tell me the answer to that. And I would say, well, why is somebody that's currently on the team today not capable of stepping into this role, right? And so it's question after question after question after question. And I think that it's important for the client to have their own light bulb go off to where they go, oh, wow, maybe what I've been looking for is entirely different than what I actually need in order to solve the business problem. Because if I just tell you what you need, guess what? I don't even work there. You know, it's more important for me to have the skills and ability to probe in order for you to connect the dots on your own with that single light bulb moment. And what you might find out is, hey, I may not actually need an executive assistant. What I might need is just some little sidekick that's going to do whatever the hell I say, whether it's pick up my dry cleaning or work in this Excel spreadsheet for the next 14 hours. The things I'm God's greatest gift to commercial real estate, and then I can develop them into my right hand person protege, right? And so it's important to understand what is the reason why this position is available. Why can't anybody else step into this role? And then, of course, you've got to match. What are the compensation expectations, right? You know, what is the 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year path for this person look like, right? If there's not a clear path for upper mobility or income increase trajectory, a lot of times maybe you don't want a high flying rock star A player because that person's going to get bored and feel like they're entitled to something entirely more after 4 months of employment. So I think that it's important to be skilled and inquisitive in asking your client questions. That way everybody can land the plane after that 1 hour conversation.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're watching this, what Jeremy just told you is well beyond just being able to hiring. I mean, this is the key. Jeremy, I can't stand it when I'm talking to somebody and selling me something, and they just start selling me something without asking any questions because it's like, what the heck? Like, you don't even know what my needs are, what my problems are, and you're trying to sell me this as the solution, but you don't understand the problem. So I just think it's an uber sign of professionalism as somebody that really is an expert at what they do when they focus on what you just said and asking questions because you're trying to really figure out what the root is versus just sell whatever it is that you're offering. I love what you said. There's so much brilliance to that.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. You might find out that, you know, like I said, you just need an executive assistant whenever maybe you thought you needed a VP of operations, right? And then now we turn it into a fillable role with a very manageable compensation requirement than if you were looking for something that was completely different than what you had initially thought.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see companies make when it comes to hiring where they're failing and then you come in and quickly succeed?
Well, the biggest mistake that I see companies make is they try to replace the predecessor with how much the person was making. Okay, so I'll give you an example, right? Let's say that you've got a principal engineer, and your company manufactures, straws, right? And that principal engineer had 14 years of experience, a mechanical engineering degree, and they led a team of 4 engineers. And that person left, and he was making $140,000 a year. So then you call us and you say, hey, Jeremy, I need to replace Joe Smith, right? The guy's got to have experience managing a team of 4 engineers. He's got to have 11 years of experience, and we want to pay him 140, right? Well, what's the mistake there, Ty? Jeff did not leave your company to go make 140. He's now the director of engineering making 185. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so they're trying to pay the predecessor who vacated the role the same, right? Well, guess what? If that person had that skills and experience, he would go be the director. He would have secured the job that the person vacated for. So I think it's important to recognize if I'm trying to replace Joe, maybe I need to replace who Joe was whenever he took that role 4 years ago, right? And so you're always constantly trying to replace the predecessor with very unrealistic skills, experience, and compensation expectation requirements. And it takes a lot of expertise and confidence from a headhunter standpoint to tell the client, hey, look, your expectations are entirely unreasonable, right? I just talked to the CEO of an 80-person oil and gas law firm here in Houston, Texas yesterday, as a matter of fact, who said, I want to pay X to go hire a president. And he's at 20 million in revenue, but he wants to grow from 20 million to 50 million. And he says, I want the guy that's already grown from 20 to 50 because he's going to help us do that, right? Well, what I told him is I said, hey, look, you're paying 20 million salary because you are a 20 million company. And based on your market research, your compensation is in line. But if you want the 50 million guy that's done it before, you got to pay the 50 million. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
it makes a lot of sense on my end.
yeah, and so it's like we have these unrealistic expectations of what we're going to get and how much we're going to get it for. And we got to remember that if you want the guy that's gonna help you grow from 20 to 50 that's never done it before, then you can get him for 20. You got to give him the right system, tools, resources, freedom, and autonomy in order to do it. But if you want the guy that's already done it before, if you're not willing to offer equity or skin in the game, guess what? You got to pony up 50 million money, baby. You want the chief technology officer from Google and you're a startup tech company? Well, guess what? There's a lot of zeros that you got to compete with over at Google.
So here's my question, and I love what you're saying. I absolutely love it. And by the way, I think this is one of the big mistakes that we make as entrepreneurs, right? Because when I look at Elon Musk, mad man crush on that guy. Guy's freaking awesome, right? But he can't do what he does if he's micromanaging each one of these major organizations. The guy is a pro at putting aces in there to run those companies and then coming in and solving like one major problem a week. But then from our perspective, those people cost a lot of freaking money. Let's be honest, right? That $20 million company you're talking about, to hire somebody that's did 50 million when they're only at 20, that is a major strain on their bank account because it could take time to get from the 20 to 50. So I think this is an objection that mentally we all have. So how do we overcome that? Like how do we get the person that we want that we know we possibly cannot afford to pay for right now, but we know those are the people that we need to get to the next level?
Variable compensation, man. You know, compensation tied to hitting the milestones that you want to achieve, right? So if I am looking for that president and I want to pay him $250,000 a year, well, hey, guess what? You know, whenever our trailing revenue hits 25 million, you can automatically get a salary increase to 300. When we get to 35 million, you automatically get a salary increase, right, to 400. When we hit 50 million in trailing 12 months revenue, I'm going to give you a $500,000 bonus, John. I can put that in an offer letter on day one. And if that individual can lead me to the promised land and where I want them to go, they already have structure that's going to show them the return on their investment, right? But if I just say, hey, accept 250K with a 20% bonus with nothing guaranteed in the employment contract, then guess what? I'm already at 375, bro. I'm not taking that job. And so I think it's important to actually like put in a variable compensation component tied to hitting the achievements that you want. And guess what? If it takes them longer to get there, you're not out. You didn't tie it to a definitive time frame. You tied it to a milestone, right? And we've seen this with our manufacturing clients. Once we have these three pieces of equipment commissioned, I'll give you a $50,000 bonus, right? You'd be surprised at a project that you thought would take that person 12 months. Now they get it done in 7 months because they've got that carrot dangling, right? On time and on budget, right? And so I think it's important for entrepreneurs to reward the right milestones for business impact and put less on time and tenure, man. I think that's a very flawed way of thinking, the whole time and tenure.
And I think it's brilliant. I think a lot of people are watching not even familiar with variable compensation, which brings me to another point. How do you figure this out? Like, there's so many different ways to pay somebody: base, bonuses, incentives. I mean, there's just so many different ways. So how does somebody figure out the best kind of comp plan? How do we even know the best way to hire somebody and pay them in a way where it's beneficial for us, but most importantly, beneficial for them, but most importantly, beneficial for us as the entrepreneur, the owner?
Man, great question. And it's a segue into you have to join these co-ops of other like-minded executives in the same evolution of where they're at and growing their business, right? And so our company, Encore Search Partners, has 5 members of our leadership team in a group called Vistage Worldwide. It's a peer-to-peer advisory group, right? Where I know that Jacob has 20 other directors of operations in his group where he can process issues. He can bring ideas. He can say, hey, we're restructuring our mid-level manager compensation plans. What do you guys do? What are your best practices? What have you seen work? What has failed, right? And so these peer-to-peer advisory groups are so important. I, for the last 7.5 years, have been in a group called EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. And actually, yesterday, I was in my small group forum with 11 other CEO founders to where we're processing complex issues. And I'm not limited to my own 20 years of experience in business. I have access to the aggregate of all 12 people in that room. So they're saying, hey, you're getting sued right now. Here's a best practice or resource. Hey, you're thinking of promoting your vice president to president. Here's, some things that you may need to look out for. Hey, you're upgrading your employee handbook in order to make sure that this challenge doesn't happen again. Here's some things to look out for and to safeguard yourself with. So it's important to recognize that it's not all on you, that you can get coaches, you can get advisory teams, you can surround yourself with individuals that have no ulterior motive other than you guys just elevating or co-elevating with one another.
Jeremy, I know Entrepreneurs Organization. What was the other one that you just mentioned? I didn't hear that.
Vistage.
Vistage. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you recommend Vistage possibly for team members and then Entrepreneur Organization for you. For the
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that being said, and that makes a lot of sense. When you're raising, we get a lot of solicitations to raise people's pay, right? Employees come and say, hey, should I raise pay? HR comes to me and says, should I reach pay? How should I raise pay? So do you have a system that you think organizations should follow to make sure that they're maintaining people's pay where it should be? And it's basically, because I would think you'd want to keep it consistent based on something. I think we've used pay scale before, for example. So what is your recommendation there where we really know what our employees should be paid, not just high level like we're talking here, but regular employees, and then how to adjust their pay through time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to differ based on the department, right? Does the position account for revenue? Is it just overhead? Is it R&D, right? There's so many variables that contribute to what the person should be paid. But the one thing that I tell my 40-person team is we pay you guys on cost of replacement. That's what you get paid, right? So if you want a salary increase or you want a variable compensation increase, you need to continue to develop your skills and be more valuable to the organization. There's another thing that we rolled out to the team several company town halls ago, but a friend of mine had gone to a Harvard executive summit, and he took a screenshot of a PowerPoint presentation that said there's two types of companies. There's companies that run it like a family, right? And then there's companies that run it like a sports team. And we were not shy about informing our employees that we run it like a sports team. What I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if you've been starting running back for the last 5 years. If I've got this running back that's faster, stronger, right? I'm going to hand the ball off to them, right? So when you have this culture of performance excellence, that helps police people themselves on their work ethic, their productivity, their profitability. And the way that we pay them is there's 3 levers that contribute to what is your compensation, right? And so what we do is recruiting, right? And so there's 3 variables that we pay on. Did you find the candidate? Did you manage the client relationship? And did you originate the account, right? And so it doesn't matter if you've been here 5 years or 5 months, everybody's on the exact same pay plan. Now, Jimmy might do $1 million in billables, but he may only find candidates on that million. Well, he's going to get paid X. Joey might do all 3. Might originate the account, manage the client relationship, and find the candidates on $500,000, and he might make just as much as Jimmy, right? And so then hopefully Joey looks at Jimmy and goes, holy shit, maybe I need to develop my skills in order to manage client relationships. Maybe I'm going to be proactive at going out there and originating clients, right? Because everybody's on the exact same comp plan, whether you're brand new or whether you've been here 5 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Jeremy,
think
great conversation today.
I
There's a
think
lot of
that law
people.
firms do that well. Yeah.
Go ahead. I
No, I
need
was going to say, I think that law firms do that incredibly well, right? You know, the associates get paid a very competitive salary based on how much work they do. But when they can develop the skills to go out and originate their own clients, man, that's next level compensation. When you're on that partner comp and you've got associates doing the work for you, and you were the one that managed the relationship and brought in that logo, but you're on the golf course every day at 3 p.m. entertaining prospects and clients, and you're still making seven figures, oh, that's magical.
Jeremy, great stuff today. For those that are interested in learning more, because we just really scratched the surface on what's involved with making the right hiring decisions, and especially those people that are interested in working with you, learning more about you and how you can help them fill those key positions. What action should they take? Where should they be able to go to be able to learn more?
Yeah, direct message me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. You know, if you go to my profile, it's Jeremy Jenson, Jenson. I've got a little goat emoji next to my last name. You can look at some of our content. You can look at what my technical competency is in direct hire executive recruitment. I would love to have a 30-minute consultation with you to talk about your business problem that you're looking to solve. And hey, guess what? If we come out of that 30 minutes and I give you the insight in order for you to fill it on your own, hey, more power to you. But if it makes sense to retain our firm to go out there and poach somebody from a competitor, I would love the opportunity to be the firm that does that.
I love it, Jeremy. Thank you very much for coming on with us today.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot. Love your energy. Thanks a lot.
Same. All right, so listen, if you're watching this, I mean, this is a really big deal. I mean, I can't verbalize how much money you're going to lose when you make the wrong hiring decisions, and especially at a really, really, really high level. When you're talking about the type of people that really matter to your organization, it's essential. We've all heard before that the people that got us here aren't the same people that are going to get us there. And we are not the best at letting those people go and moving the right people into the position. And as Jeremy has touched upon, when we try to do that, we're oftentimes making the decision based on what we had, not based on what we actually want, what we should have, right? And these are just mistakes we make as entrepreneurs. It's why we really can't trust ourselves making those kind of high level decisions. I have found, and by the way, the science of the books all support this as well. And so when you need an expert to go out and find the right people to take you to levels well beyond where you are now, maybe well beyond where you think you can get to, this is where Jeremy and this is where Encore come in. So there's a couple actions I want you to take. First of all, go find Jeremy on LinkedIn. Okay, he's the GOAT, so it's easy. Just look at the GOAT emoji right beside his name. That's how you can find him. I'm also going to put a link to his LinkedIn right here on the show resources page. You can find him again at Jeremy Jenson on LinkedIn, and that's Jenson. Now, you can also go to encoresearch.com. That is our main site, encoresearch.com. And by the way, if you can't find Jeremy when you first look at LinkedIn, you can tie that search in with Encore and you'll be able to find him and direct message him right there. So make sure you take those actions right now. Go find Jeremy Jenson on LinkedIn with the GOAT emoji. Make sure you check out encoresearch.com because this is your future. I mean, this is the path to find the right people to take you to where you really want to be, because otherwise you're just going to spin your wheels where you are because you don't have the right people to get you out of that rut and get you to where you want to be. Sky's the limit. You have the right people. So make sure you check him out. Jeremy Jenson on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.